Welcome to the Cutting Time CNC Podcast, your go-to show for precision, efficiency, and innovation in CNC manufacturing. We're here to help you cut time in all of your CNC endeavors. Whether you're a CNC enthusiast, CAD/CAM aficionado, or into robotics, this podcast is for you. Join us as we explore cutting-edge perspectives on machining metal parts. Discover the perfect tools and streamline your production processes. Precision meets progress on the Cutting Time CNC Industry Podcast. And now, here's your hosts, Al Martins and Stephanie Bate.
Okay, well, this is an unexpected start. It looks like we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty. Al has just poofed and disappeared. So I am pausing just quickly to see where he is. I'm sure it will resume quickly, but yeah, I don't want to start the show without the other co-host, so we'll just patiently wait for him to resume. Yeah. Apologies for the start. He just disappeared right as the intro was going, so I'm not quite sure what is happening, but I'll take a brief pre-intermission. Okay. Okay, he's come back. Now I can't hear your audio. This is going. Nope, still can't hear you.
How about now?
Okay, we can hear you. I'm having a slight heart attack. I don't know.
Yeah, me too. My computer just
Yeah.
decided this was a good time to restart itself.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I didn't know what to do.
Well.
I was like, do I start the show? I don't know what to do. But
Did you? Are we live? Aren't we?
We're live. Yeah, I've been here for the last 2 minutes trying to figure out what to do.
So the countdown is over. The intro's over. All the good parts are done.
Yeah, there was no intro to play again. There was, so this was a very interesting episode so far. They've just gotten to stare at my face. I didn't want to bring Rob on just to...
Oh my goodness. That never happens until now, and it never happened before.
No, I think I this bad night to wear a sweater because I'm now sweating. So.
You'd have to do that interview yourself.
Yeah, I was ready to start. I was like, okay, there's only so much they can stare at me.
Oh, wow. Isn't that bizarre? Anyway, all right. So did you want to run the intro, Steph?
I already did. The intro's done.
Oh, you did the intro.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said the intro wasn't run.
No, that's why I couldn't replay it. So they were just staring at me. So I apologize for everybody who was just...
Well, it wasn't dead air.
Well, a little bit. For a minute, I was texting you like, what happened? Where did you go?
Where'd you go? Well, let's invite Rob on.
Yeah,
he's been waiting in the back.
We have an awesome show of Rob Gauci from Veritas Tools, Inc. And what a way to start it. So that just means it can go up from here. So
yeah, exactly. Some excitement.
Exactly.
Wow. All right, Rob, come on board. Thank you, Steffi.
Thank you.
Hey, Rob.
Well, this might be interesting. It may not be uphill from here. It may be downhill. Who knows?
Who knew? I mean, it's never happened before, but everything works perfectly till it breaks.
Yes.
So there you go. Anyway, Rob, good to have you. Really exciting. We've known each other for a long, long time, and I'm really happy to have you on our show today. So sorry for the little glitches a few minutes ago, but makes it a little exciting. So Rob, tell us about yourself. How'd you get here? What was your journey to get to Veritas?
My journey to get to Veritas. Well, as far as my personal journey in manufacturing, that sort of started in college. And the first summer I was taking a program called Industrial Engineering Technology. And I was looking for a summer job, and I ended up working in a small machine shop. I was the first employee, and it was about a 1,200 square foot shop. There was no CNC equipment at all. It was 1981. And but the owner had a real view to effective manufacturing. So we had programmable digital readouts even in those days, courtesy of Southwestern Industries, their track product. And even if we only had one hole to drill in a part, we had to start with a datum, and we had to have that programmed in. So the discipline, which is so important in all manufacturing, was sort of instilled at a young age. And, in 86, we purchased our first machine tool, and Tim Franklin was on the other day. And actually we worked with Elliot for many years afterwards. And I apprenticed there and learned programming and a number of different techniques. When I left there, I joined Veritas as a machine shop manager, and being in the jobbing industry for 20 years, I think set me up rather well for some of the different components that our designers would come up with. I had some Swiss turning experience by then, some horizontal machining experience, and programming I hadn't done for a few years, but it was still there. We had switched from EasyCam, which was unbounded geometry back in 1986. Quite a challenge. We had switched to Gibbs Cam, so we were quite used to a cam system that was better suited for the kind of work we were doing in that job shop. So I was first a customer of Veritas tools, and then prior to joining, I actually had the opportunity. As in the company, we made a number of components for Veritas under subcontract, and then I became an employee. So I've sort of had a number of different roles as they relate to Veritas tools. In the middle, about 8 years, I left and I joined Sandvik Coromant for 6 years. And then one day Veritas called me and said they wanted their machine shop manager back. I let them know that he wasn't available because he had changed. And my current role is manufacturing manager. So it's very similar to machine shop manager, but it just allows me, they give me a number of challenges in everything from plant and office layout as we chart our future to machine tool selection and a number of other things. So that's it in a nutshell.
Wow. All right. So that's kind of like Elon Musk, really. only he didn't fly in from South Africa.
No, sir.
The manufacturing challenges are the interesting part. And, that's what our whole podcast is about today, is really trying to understand how you've been able to nail that, how Veritas has been able to nail it.
So that's a woodworking joke, right, Al? How we've been able to nail it? Okay.
I mean, exactly. It is. It is. No pun intended at all.
None at all.
Maybe just for the listener, I know it's not on our question list because, I'm sure Stephanie went through our process, 10 questions, and we try to get through them all. But, how did that name come about?
Okay. So Veritas is Latin for truth.
Okay.
As many people may know already.
Yeah.
And to Leonard Lee, the founder of Lee Valley Tools, when he decided to go into designing and then eventually manufacturing tools rather than strictly distributing tools, he felt very strongly that if you reached into your wallet for something that wasn't money for rent or a car payment or something like that, if it was discretionary income, that really the thing that you bought better give you good service. It better be true to its design and its purpose. So that was the genesis of the name.
Nice.
That it should give you good value, if I can say it that way.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Um, Sometimes looking deeper at a name gives some insight. Sometimes a name is just a name,
Mhm.
Toys R Us. But this has a little bit of depth, a little bit of thought, much like the tools themselves, really.
Absolutely.
So here's our first question. Can you give us a brief overview of Veritas and its role within Lee Valley?
Absolutely.
How did the
So,
company become a leader in North American manufacturing?
so Lee Valley itself started in the city of Ottawa, which is where we're still based, um, in 1978, if I'm not mistaken. And it was started around a kitchen table. Leonard Lee was a frustrated woodworker on one hand because he couldn't find tools that he wanted to buy. He was a tool collector and a tool user. And on the other hand, he figured if I can't find tools, maybe there's other people as well. And so he said to his wife, Lorraine, I think there's a business opportunity here. And Veritas wasn't even thought of at that point. Mr. Lee felt that if he could have a company and eventually employ 10 people, that would be really a satisfactory outcome. And that was about 990 employees ago, meaning we've got about 1,000 employees across Canada. In retail, in our stores, we've got 17 stores, as I say, across Canada. And within a few years, the reason we got into the store business, the retail business, is the company was strictly set up as a mail order company, and we still have customers today that send their orders in by mail. We almost closed as a result of a postal strike because all of a sudden everything that people had ordered we couldn't ship to them. And once the dust had settled on that situation, Mr. Lee determined that maybe we needed a retail presence, and so that started the Ottawa store, which, as I say, now goes right across the country, from Halifax to Victoria. So
Nice.
the Veritas side, just to continue, about 5 years after Lee Valley started, Mr. Lee couldn't find the tools that he wanted to sell still, even though he had a good understanding of what was available. So he decided to start designing tools and having them manufactured in the local area. When the local shops were too busy with high tech or other industry, his orders would get put on the back burner. He got tired of that, purchased a machine shop, hired all the people. We still have, I think, 2 of the machines from that original purchase, a big old Elliott drill press and I think a small lathe as well. And a couple of those employees are still with us. They haven't all retired yet. And that was the beginning of manufacturing at Lee Valley Tools.
Wow.
So the industrial designers that we already had on staff on the Veritas side, they now could work directly with the shop floor, and that really accelerated what we could do and how quickly we could do it.
Yeah. Well, what do they say about necessity?
The mother of all invention.
Absolutely. Yeah. If it's not out there, you got to be able to find out a way to make it happen, and that's great. Is he still alive today?
No, he passed a few years ago. His son Robin has been the president and CEO for a number of years now. I think since 2003. So we are a second generation family business, still family owned.
Nice.
And the third generation also works within the company. So we're really well set up to continue into the future.
Like that. That's great. All right. So let's get to the next question. What challenges did Veritas face in maintaining manufacturing operations in North America, and how did you overcome them?
So, I mean, probably the first thing to mention is how important it is to the company that we manufacture domestically. There's been a lot of opportunity for the company to look at building product, in different other countries, and in Ottawa specifically, our challenges quite often are that Ottawa isn't a hotbed of manufacturing. It's not Montreal. It's not Toronto. So that can cause us a number of different challenges. One is on the people side, and the other is sometimes technical support for equipment repair and things like that. So we find ourselves often with a challenge finding skilled operators that are interested in the kind of work that we're doing, and that we get around that, if you will, in many cases with automation. There's an old saying: if it's dull, dangerous, or dirty, get a robot to do it. So we have jobs that are either dull or dirty. So automation can assist in those cases. Part of what we've done to overcome it is just our processes on the shop floor to assist relatively unskilled operators in making craft type product. And I know I'll answer some of that in some of the future questions, but things like mistake proofing so that you can only load something one way, things like techniques like that go a long way to assist people in doing a good job. Because nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I can't go to work, can't wait to go to work and make a mistake. However, mistakes can happen, right? Your audio, sir, has disappeared.
I mean,
there you are.
It's full of technicalities today, isn't it? Oh my goodness. Yeah, the whole challenge of manufacturing in North America has been there for many years, and outsourcing and the rest of it. And as we get into this podcast deeper, we'll start to get into that. But I think you mentioned there, the challenges of automation and other things have helped you become more refined in being able to be competitive in the marketplace.
Yeah, for sure.
So number 3, why do you believe it's important to continue manufacturing domestically rather than outsourcing to other regions?
So again, as a company that's won many awards over the years, both as a good employer, the Retail Council of Canada has given us awards as well. We see manufacturing as a key contributor to the economy, and we feel as a company that every Canadian manufacturing job that we offer probably has a spin-off of up to eight people otherwise. So, it Made in Canada, we are a company that not only distributes through our retail and mail order in Canada, but also through mail order throughout the States. But there's also 23 countries around the world where we have distributors who purchase Veritas product primarily because it's Canadian product for sale in their specific markets. They don't all buy the same things. Woodworkers in Japan don't need or want the same things that woodworkers in England or Germany do. So each of those distributors worldwide purchases the things that they want, if you will, from Veritas. So that makes it interesting too, because a product can really take off in one market and there's no sales at all in another. So really what we do is we instruct our distributors of what's available, and then they make the decision whether they're going to purchase it or not. So we always have a bit of a back and forth. I've got 10 of these. Do I ship them all to Lee Valley? Do I ship them all to export, or do I split the difference? So that can make for some interesting decision making at different times, because our biggest challenge is that the customers that we have want more of us, if you will, rather than less. So we're always looking to see what we can do to improve efficiencies. And so solving the problems that we've been talking about already around automation, around people. And I shouldn't call them problems, they're challenges. Like you said, every manufacturer has these challenges. So it's part of what keeps it so interesting.
I think what helps keep things in North America too is it's a quality product. right? You're not making a commodity product.
No.
And I think every one of your worldwide sales and domestic sales are to a customer base that is looking for the truth. They're looking for that niche tool that they're not going to find anywhere else.
And that can often be the case, that no one else is making what a particular tool that we have reimagined. Robin Lee, our founder, he basically, and this comes right off the website, so I'm just going to read it, but it's our Veritas manufacturing is really about studying what's gone before and finding ways to improve it. Mm-hmm. Reinterpreting traditional tools using newer materials and newer manufacturing methods. So there's things that we used to be able to make 100 years ago, 150 years ago, that we look at them now and we're in awe of, like, how did they make that? Yeah. And we have all these sophisticated machine tools and techniques. And it's like, well, they didn't have this. How did they do it? So you're absolutely right, Al. Made in Canada means something throughout the world. And the customers are challenging us all the time. If we make a misstep, if you will, if we ship something with a flaw that we didn't notice, customers are very good at helping us get better. And it's a very nice relationship, actually, because people don't vote with their feet. They tend to say, this isn't what I expected. Can you help me understand? And it gives us a chance to fix the problem, should there be one.
Yeah, it's a very targeted customer. And I obviously I've been a customer myself, so I know the tools. I own some of my own. Yeah. But all right, well, that kind of ties right into our question 4. It's how has Veritas maintained its high quality and craftsmanship standards while producing at scale in North America?
So I should mention that one of the most important things, and it was kind of in that quote, is that the tools we make have to have some innovation. So we don't simply add something to the catalog because everybody else is selling it. That's not what we're interested in doing at all. So that innovation side, having mechanisms that delight a little bit by working well and doing something that the customer expects and maybe a little more. The Lee family has curated over the years a huge library of tools. And I don't know that whether it will ever become a woodworking museum, but we take advantage of it on the design side, where the designers can go and take a number of examples of similar products from different manufacturers, and see how tools were imagined in the past. And that allows us to create a design that respects the past. For example, we brought out a plane that Stanley had put out, which is called the combination plane, Stanley number 45. And we made sure when we did that the blades that we manufacture will fit within that product. So you haven't been able to buy blades for a Stanley 45 for some period of time. And if you purchase a blade from Veritas, it will fit right in, and you can get to work. So we're creating a new market for that tool, because since you can't buy the blades, you certainly can't buy that tool anywhere. Right. So there's a market. Our biggest challenge, as Robin likes to remind us, we ship that tool with a one blade, a 1/4 inch wide blade, and we sell something like 67 different blades for that tool. So there's many customers that aren't interested in one blade. They're interested in many. Some people want all of those blades. And so the minute that we launched the product, we were that much further behind on the blade making side. Wow. Part of that innovation, I would say, or part of that craftsmanship standards and quality has been that over the years we've started both blade manufacturing in-house rather than subcontract, and also we've created a wood shop as well for all of the wood handles and totes for planes, as well as other products out of sheet goods. So we have some good flexibility there. And again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It allows us to quickly pivot from product to product within house, or if there's something new that comes up. So that's been part of it. The high quality and craftsmanship. Part of that answer is the investment and the reinvestment that the company makes in both machine tools, work holding. We have our own dedicated tool room where we both create and then repair after those of us on the shop floor that do make an error, customize some of that work holding, so it has to go back for repair. We have a tool crib that is quite extensive. Some products we'll only make once every 3 or 4 years, so we need to have cutting tools available that maybe we haven't used in a while. So we have a pretty extensive tool crib. Things like presetting, RFID tag tool holders. These are all techniques we're using that help on the quality side.
Well, and that kind of leads into our next question, really. But it also speaks to how organized you have to be. And I know Lee Valley sells a lot of organizing tools. So,
and we use them where we can. Robin likes to see that we've gone to Lee Valley and purchased something. And yes, we do pay for it. Our division pays for that. And but it's always a good thing when utilize something that, and when a customer comes for a tour and they see things that they wouldn't necessarily expect to see in a machine shop.
Sure.
It's good for them. They say, "Oh well, they use their own items." They're not just distributing them for.
No, it makes total sense, and I won't go down this rabbit hole. It's going to be too long, but yes, we'll head on to question 5. Can you share some insights into the specific manufacturing techniques or technologies that Veritas uses to remain competitive?
Absolutely. I mean, one of them is that design process that listens to the customer, and we'll talk some more about that later. But within our arsenal of different techniques, we have things like optical inspection as well as coordinate measuring machines. Things like laser etching allows us not only to put our logo on something, but also to create very accurate measuring instruments, rulers, and things of that nature, speed squares. We have 3 horizontal machining centers tied to pallet pools, and that's been a real game changer for us from the point of view that especially some products that are more complicated to set up, they can stay set up while you machine something else, but when it's time to make those, the setup's already done. Everybody uses pallet pools a little differently, but that's the way we have chosen to use pallet pools, is to keep things set up, and when we need them, we cycle them in and make them. We've for a number of years had Swiss turn lathes with 12-foot bar loaders. So again, those are not uncommon, but they are definitely a technology that allows you to run unmanned in many occasions, lights out. We have some machine tools with robotic automation. In the first project we did is on a turning center, and the success of that will propel other automation of that nature in the future. One of the things I mentioned, the wood shop. The wood shop has to make a part called a tote, and it's basically the handle at the back of the plane. And so the sanding process at the end of manufacturing was between 6 and 7 minutes. And now the robot is doing about 2/3 of that, about 4 to 5 minutes, depending on the tote. And then the operators just touch up the last little bit. So again, that's under the dull category, but it was also, I won't call it dangerous, but it was really hard on people's shoulders, to be pushing against a buffing, sanding setup.
Yeah.
And then, the other one I would mention, for the last number of years, we've had additive manufacturing, probably 15 years, something like that. And the first machine was named Hal. The second one was entitled Dave. And those have gone through their service life. And we recently replace them with a machine with a larger capacity and capability for other resins. And it hasn't got a name yet, so we just call it Aeon 3D, which is its name.
That's funny.
But we use that for everything from prototypes to work holding tooling. So we've found some resins that can survive in coolant in a machine tool.
Yeah.
And when we need something that's a little bit unusual, that could quite often help us out.
Yeah.
Helps out with density too, because to make hard tooling for everything isn't always required. And with 3D printing or additive manufacturing, it's given us some choices.
That's interesting. So maybe I know I digress maybe just slightly into this question. Did Lean or Industry 4.0 come into play in any of this?
So Lean, the way we look at Lean, I would say we haven't really started the Industry 4.0 journey. We've had DNC for a number of years, and that was a real game changer, because you could have 4 machine tools all capable of making the same product with 4 slightly different programs, and that was that was us in the past. But today there's one source of truth, if you will. So distributed numerical control really helped with that. The RFID project on one of our mills helped us understand the power of that technology. So we're sort of inching our way towards it. Because we don't sell time in the same manner that a job shop would, it's the drivers are a little different. So Lean, by definition, is the absence of waste, or the absence of fat, if we were talking about meat. So again, we look to see how we can apply those principles. So I mentioned, for example, mistake proofing earlier. That's a fairly low hanging piece of fruit in the lean journey. And so there's a number of other techniques like that we use. But to say that we've gone on a journey to remove work with our supply chain and do a number of things, it just hasn't been something that's on our radar just yet. With the number of different products we have and the desire to continue producing those and enlarging our catalog, if you will, where other manufacturers might rationalize their catalog, our owner thinks quite the opposite. If we're going to make tools for luthiers, then we need to have a variety of those tools to serve that market. And if we're not serving that market, then so we say, well, this one is difficult to make, we'd like to drop it, or this one is we don't make it very often, we're struggling with it. Well, he challenges us to get better, rather than saying, yeah, we'll drop it and then we'll drop the whole line and we won't sell any tools to luthiers. So we look at it, in a slightly different manner.
No, exactly. It goes back to the quality of the product, and always being efficient at what you're doing makes sense, because there's always people watching and there's always rationalization. And if you can stay smart, you'll stay local and you'll stay true to the product and its value. So, which brings it to number 6. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, the only thing I could add to that is it's always been important, and especially once people had the ability very easily to communicate back with every manufacturer. So instead of writing a letter and mailing it in, which we certainly as a company respected, and we read those letters and responded. Mr. Lee was famous for responding directly to customer, but whether they were bricks or bouquets, he made sure that our point of view as a company was explained. And we still do that today, except the volume, the ability of customers to communicate with us has certainly changed. But as an organization, it's still critical. So that's not really a manufacturing technique, but it actually informs manufacturing, because we get to understand what our customers are looking for. And that can evolve even within one product. If we've been making something for 20 years, that product has evolved as customers have looked at those products critically and helped us understand either what else they want to do with that product or what we're not doing well, as I said earlier.
It speaks to the corporate culture, and that's a huge part of this for sure. All right, number 6, which ties in perfectly. How has the workforce evolved at Veritas? What kind of talent or skills have been critical to your success in North American manufacturing?
So this is a bit of a funny answer to start with, because I'm going to circle around, but I will get to the answer. When COVID hit, something interesting happened. When COVID hit, people were stuck at home, and as a manufacturer, we continued working, so we didn't miss a beat. Our customers around the world, within a couple of months, so March of 2020, all of a sudden felt, we don't know that we need any of these items that we've ordered from you. So orders were put on hold. We continued making things for Lee Valley and export customers, but some orders were put on hold. And by May of that year, everybody realized that, I'm looking at this wall and I really always wanted to put a shelf there, and I need these things. So we ended up in a real back order situation. All the orders from our distributors were reinstated and increased. And at that time, in the middle of a pandemic, we actually went from 2 to 3 shifts. So if you can imagine trying to create a third shift in a situation where people are masked and break times are split so that different people are in the lunchroom at different times. And so what we found, though, was that the employees that we could get and retain had virtually no manufacturing skills. So we at first turned to employment agencies to help us get more people. And, as time went on, we developed a different strategy. So we have levels of employees, if you will. So we have an entry-level position called Manufacturing Associate 1, and that could get you in the wood shop. It could get you in the machine shop and grinding and lapping. And to be flexible, people are moving around in different areas so that they get different skills, and sometimes they might stay in one area for a long period of time, and other times 1 week one area will be overloaded and busy, so we just move people to that area. And then because we've been running 24 hours times 5 days a week, it's allowed us to focus, as I said, even further on flexibility, and we've been able to catch up on that order book. It wasn't caught up by the end of the pandemic, however, and we've the talents and skills really for our people, to go back to the question, are the flexibility, the interest in learning more, and not being satisfied that someone shows you something and then walks away. You have to want to participate and learn more. And when you do, everybody is around you to support that journey. And that's not true for every employee. Different people are looking for different things from employment, of course. And but we're doing an awful lot of cross training, between grinding, the wood shop, milling, turning. We have so many different aspects available that, and most people enjoy that opportunity to do different things as well, as opposed to being on. Traditionally, you'd start on a bandsaw, and some people would be still on that bandsaw years later.
Yeah.
And, there's still skills that you need there. You need to saw something square. You need to understand when the blade is sharp. You need to make sure that you're safe. There's lots there just on a relatively simple tool.
Sure.
I don't know if that answers it for you.
No, I think it answers it well. I mean, ultimately, the skills in looking for people. I mean, during the pandemic, there were all kinds of issues, but people who have currently CAD/CAM skills or CAD skills or robotics. I mean, ultimately, I know you guys spend a lot of time and energy training people. I would say, as I've interviewed many other people, it's more about attitude and the will to work and have honor in their work. You can work with somebody like that.
Absolutely.
if they have that pride, you can get them where they need to be.
And it's probably been said by some of your other guests, I'm not sure. If that isn't in the person, it's hard to instill that. It's hard to create that. You know, there's an old saying about horses and water, which I won't bother to repeat. It's the same with us. You know, if it's something that you like, and you know, I always say in metalworking fluids, there has to be some addictive element, because you walk into a shop and either you're repulsed by it and you run the other way, or you're sucked into it and you stay forever. So I'm in the stay forever gang.
I like that. Oh, that's funny. And again, just thinking off the cuff, do you offer woodworking courses to the guys? Is that something?
It's something we've talked about for many years. And one of the things that we're finding as our product continues to evolve, and some of the folks that have been with the company for many years start to retire, is that that education in woodworking, so the employees understand how a blade cuts and why we do the things we do. So we're in the process, our customer service team is actually putting together some courses. It's always been possible to go right next door to the shops is the Lee Valley store in Ottawa. Right. So when they had a seminar that would be interesting to employees, you know, employees could sign up for those. So there's always been opportunity. We're finding that it's becoming more important now.
Yeah, those electives are always fun in school, weren't they?
Yes. I'm out of physics class. Yay.
Yeah, they were the best part of my my time in high school.
Yeah.
All right. So we're at number 7. So sustainability is an important issue in modern manufacturing, and we kind of bring this up on every episode almost. How does Veritas incorporate sustainable practices into its operations?
So again, as I've been doing a little bit of research on this, I put down some things, and I said, this might even be an answer that's going to be too long. But on the Veritas side, we transitioned away from a wood called Babinga, and it became endangered. And there's it's called CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. So once Babinga was identified as a wood that was in peril, we switched away from that. Previous to Babinga, which has a dark color, much like rosewood. Rosewood has been on that list for many, many years before Babinga. We used to use some maple handles and totes that were just a natural finish maple. And they looked very good, but many people prefer the look of the darker woods. So what we're using now is, again, maple, so no risk of extinction for that species.
No.
And we put it through a process that's beyond kiln drying, and it's called torrefication. So the maple has been torrefied. I always say it's been terrified, because when you look at it, it's brown, you know, dark, deep brown color. And after being machined or worked, it just really glows. And when it's in a raw state, interestingly, you can still smell the maple. So it's kind of interesting. So we part of that sustainability, we create durable products. We don't produce something that someone uses and then throws out. We have families come back to us and either they're looking to donate their grandfather's tools because they don't know what to do with them. That's happened on more than one occasion. Or it's, you know, I've just inherited my grandfather's tools and I want to learn, you know, what these are and how they work. And so it's a durable product that can be passed down between generations, and often is. The tools can be repaired. You know, customers come to us and they've dropped a tool and it's been damaged or whatever. We sell or, you know, assist them in getting replacement parts. Our packaging, it's recyclable. And within the shops, we use recyclable packaging as well to move product between the buildings. And we reuse it, you know, corrugated cardboard boxes many times before they're no longer of service. But we don't get into a big cycle of having to clean them and wash them. And so we stay away from the water side, if you will, and all of the waste that can provide, and instead just recycle the corrugated. On the Lee Valley side, during the pandemic, Robin noticed that there were a number of boxes with a smile on the side that people had in their recycling every week as he traveled through his neighborhood. And so we started offering people $1 if they brought us a box from wherever, whatever retailer they had. And so we reused that box. We put a sticker on it to tell the customer that, this box has been on a journey, and, now it's your turn.
Yeah.
Things like on the Veritas side, on the Swiss turn lathes, we finish a 12-foot bar with a remnant, which is 13 to 16 inches in length as a rule. And so we sell those in the stores on occasion so that people can do other types of products. We also use those within our own operation. So we recycle the materials already been consumed, if you will, electronically by the ERP system, but it still physically exists in a 13 or 16 inch length. So we will consume that.
Well, I think inherently, all those things are great. And just manufacturing in general and keeping manufacturing in, we'll say, the West, for lack of a better word, in North America.
Yeah.
We have to be sustainable. Machinists inherently want to be more efficient.
Yes.
And just survival will tell us that we need to be more efficient, whether that's better coolants, better light, better methods on how to machine a part, cutting technologies, techniques. All of those things lend to sustainability because we were getting more efficient. If we're taking less time to build a part, we're using less energy.
And we're wasting less, exactly.
So, billet sizes, all these things, you can't stay in manufacturing for a long, long time without getting better at it, or somebody's going to take over.
One of the things we do is, we make a lot of our product starts off life as a casting. So again, it's a near net shape that we're starting with. So we're minimizing the cycle time, certainly, but we're also minimizing the amount of waste at the end of the process.
Yeah.
So the recycling of steel or aluminum, whatever we're cutting, we definitely stream those different materials. So brass is in a different stream than aluminum, which is in a different stream than steel.
Sure.
However, minimizing how much of that you create is part of the goal too.
Absolutely. All righty. Well, we're moving along here. And it's one of those things, a 1 hour podcast doesn't even seem like enough sometimes, but we just want to get the cream, we'll say, of the essence, and maybe we'll get deeper one day. So number 8, and you've kind of touched on this a little bit throughout this time, is what role do customers' feedback and innovation play at Veritas in the product development and overall manufacturing strategy?
So one of the things that we quite often talk about is that it's important to design with the customer in mind. The way we say it is we design with our ears, and we listen carefully or acutely to what our customers share. And we also want to know what their experiences was as well. So as I said earlier, whether bricks or bouquets, that helps us understand. The innovation side of our company continues to propel us to use modern machines and techniques in order that we're creating features that have value for the woodworker. And often, because the machine tool is capable of doing it, we can manufacture a more complex part at little to no additional cost by combining operations on the same machine, for example. So having a turning center with live tooling, it doesn't sound like much at first, but when you realize that, well, this used to go to a lathe, and then it went to a machining center, and then it went somewhere else, by being able to do all of that work in one place, that adds to the quality of the product. And the feedback that we get is, oh, well, this hole wasn't tapped. You don't get things like that because the way the part was made ensured the consistency from part to part and product to product.
And probably in the family of parts as well. And, when you consider, you're not buying a container full of stuff from overseas. You have control of it here. And if as you said, you have people who send you literally mail talking about products or suggesting products, because you're nimble, because you're actually in station in country, you can actually move quickly to a new design, I would suspect.
No, absolutely. And occasionally that happens. So, in every product, even including software, you might have noticed, Al, sometimes as consumers, we become the beta tester. And you can only imagine so much, in any given industry, how the customer base will use the product. So sometimes they surprise you by coming back with something that you scratch your head and you say, well, we never expected that.
Yeah.
And there's your opportunity right there,
Yeah.
The only other thing I would add, as far as that customer feedback and innovation, we've received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Retail Council of Canada.
Oh.
And that came after, what they called 40 years of wowing our customers. So we're in really good company. Canadian Tire, Roots Canada, Hudson's Bay, those are all companies that have won that award over the years. So that whole side of customer feedback, as I said, that informs us on what we're doing right and helps us understand other things to do. And we have customers that over the years have designed a tool and we've ended up manufacturing it, and they had a choice whether they wanted to take a one-time royalty check or if they wanted to play roulette and see how the sales would go. And so we have a long tradition of really listening to the customer.
That's great. That's I love that. Okay, number 9. Many companies face challenges when manufacturing locally. What has been the key to Veritas successfully maintaining production in North America while delivering high quality products?
So I would say first and foremost, it's always been a part of the company to make sure that we treat employees fairly. And that is the same on the Lee Valley side. Employees are given the opportunity to be responsible at a level that's appropriate. And we don't tend to second guess what they're thinking. We keep the lines of communication, open. It's a very important part of what we do. And so we involve a variety of different employees in the manufacturing, problem solving and things like that. So there's lean techniques that we're using around problem solving, when something comes up. We've got thousands of part numbers in play. Just on the Swiss turn lathes, there's more than 1,000 different products that we make on those lathes. As I say, not everything every year, but some of them are multiple times in a year. So we've got a very consistent system as far as how we manufacture both the ERP side, the quality side, the management of the data, or the programs, if you will, the management of the data around setting of tools. So that really helps employees with little experience gain confidence because the system supports what they're doing and they don't have to try to understand things that are maybe beyond their knowledge level, if you will.
Sure.
The system supports that, if you will.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because you're automating everything that's possible. And then at the same time, you're fostering your corporate culture that really speaks to the continuous improvement of products, not only through the culture itself, but even through your customers and your employees. So to me, it seems like that also helps offset the higher labor costs potentially because you're getting way more efficient. You're building a more niche product, a more quality product. At least that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. And, employees, they don't take it for granted, but they appreciate the fact that when they're ready to set something up, that there's a standard setup procedure, for example. And when they're making the part, there's an operating procedure that they can refer to. And right now things are paper based, but it's part of the innovation that on the shop floor we look forward to in the future, making that a little bit more modern, if you will, because everybody's looking for a little bit. We are so educated as a country now on, especially the young people or younger than me people, on iPhones and iPads and you name it, as far as things on the shop floor can look very different than they did in the past.
Oh, absolutely.
Our inspection procedures, as you make the part currently, you fill in a log, but that is something we look to automate in the future. And last but not least,
probably even your relationship with your suppliers. You've been around so long that they can adapt with you as well, and what your needs are.
It's certainly been a challenge that the Lee Valley side has experienced, where they would place an order to a small company that's making a really unique product, and now all of a sudden the sales that they would have normally had in 6 months, that the company is looking for 10 times that, for example. Mm-hmm. So our supplier base on the Veritas side, because we can predict what we're looking for, some of the inventory we would hold possibly longer than other manufacturers would find prudent. But due to the nature of our industry and our business both, it's what we need in order to satisfy those orders when they come up.
Sure.
Some, as supply chains, whether it's an extruded product or a cast product, they can be quite long. And even standard items, standard bar stock or plate material, when one industry is consuming a lot of it, it makes it difficult for other industries to get any. So, yeah.
Oh, yes. All right. Well, we're getting close. And we're on question 10. Looking ahead, what trends or changes do you see in the North American manufacturing, and how is Veritas preparing to stay ahead of the curve? So
I'm not sure if that means that we're on the curve or behind the curve now, the last part of that question. But, the reshoring that we've seen throughout North America, I think that's going to be something that's going to continue. Yeah. So you just mentioned it previously, having a good relationship with our suppliers, whether they're domestic or international, is critical to making sure that we can satisfy the needs. We're very loyal to our suppliers, both on the Lee Valley and the Veritas side. So we always involve them in our future plans so that they can prepare, if you will, as appropriate. With the more digitally savvy employees, which should have been the way I described them earlier, we want to make sure that there's some exciting opportunities for them to use digital tools at work. And the Veritas side, we're just under 200 people. So, having extra resources to do some of that work is going to be part of what it's going to take to stay ahead of the curve. We do things right now with project teams in order to create some of these different, whether it's a new machine tool or a new product, everything is treated in a project form so that we can move ahead quickly. Industry 4.0 is more than a buzzword. It was a buzzword 5 years ago. Excuse me. And a lot of people don't even really understand the genesis of what was in Industry 1.0 or 3.0. Excuse me.
Yeah, I think they're referring to as IoT now, and IoT in relationship to enabled equipment like Fanic Focus and MT Connect and all that kind of stuff too, right?
And we've had the ability for many years to understand visually what's happening on the shop floor. What you find out is really solving problems as they come up and understanding what they are is difficult if you have lots of data and lots of variety in your product line. Mm-hmm. So that was certainly an aspect of what we always look for, is there a systemic problem that we can identify? Because we can run around and chase our tails all day trying to solve, this machine was down for 5 minutes or that machine was down for 7 minutes. but what can we identify systemically that will help us make that a different situation in the future? So, I really think anything to do with the communication of either employees within the company or the machine tools, the communication that we now recognize that's possible there.
Absolutely.
So things like that.
Well, I think too, you're in the current political environment as well, and having stayed true to your founders' ideas of quality, innovation, has kept you in a manufacturing position that is enviable, I think, by many. There are not too many companies that can really say they started in a place and they stayed in that place and they kept true to their values. And that's oftentimes because they are not family owned. It's because they've been owned by accountants and others who are more interested in the bottom line than they are in their customers. And I really like that story. And it's something that I'm certainly proud of. And I love it when I go to Lee Valley and pick up tools there. It feels good.
I always say when you go to the store, you just walk in and when the store's busy, you just stand there for a minute and there's kind of a buzz, not unlike bees on a hive. And when you listen, it's people discovering things that they didn't know existed.
I see.
And now they're excited to get that in their life. I always say when you get the Lee Valley catalog, there's a product on page 7 that I didn't even know existed 5 minutes ago. And now my life isn't complete. I don't own one,
Exactly.
And it's a magic that the company has done forever. And on the manufacturing side, it's just very exciting to be able to support that.
Yeah, I can never put out a candle again the same way I used to. It's a whole new instrument to allow me to do that. And I love that about it. And well, Rob, it's been great speaking with you today. I've learned a lot as always. It's the time goes quick.
Oh, and there's the buzzer telling me to be quiet.
Yeah, that's a Dutch clock in the room, and it comes from somebody I love, and I leave it there, and brings back memories.
In my office, just so you know, I have a cuckoo clock that I purchased as a young man, and I've carried it with me from shop to shop. And people always ask me, why do you have this cuckoo clock? And I said, well, I was in Germany at the age of 16 and I bought this clock, and every half hour it lets me know that, don't take life too seriously because life is a little bit cuckoo.
A little bit good. So well done. Yeah. Nothing like a cuckoo clock from the Black Forest. That was
exactly.
That's wonderful. Well, Rob, thanks again for joining us. I really appreciate it. It's been awesome to have you. And I'm sure we'll hopefully talk to you again in the future on one of our podcasts. I'd love to have you back on a different topic, but it's been really good. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Have a good evening. Cheers.
You too. Bye-bye. She's still here.
I'm still here. Haven't run away from the embarrassment of the beginning.
Well, you can always open up. Well, you're too young to remember what white pages are like, and just read out names.
Yeah, my brain shut off, and I'm good to know I'm good in a panic.
Well, I hope you had time to change your diapers. You're all back in sync. Anyway, Steffi, tell us what's next week. What do we got going?
Oh, now you're really putting me on the spot. We've been keeping it secret, so
Well, that's what a co-host does. It takes the stress.
Yes.
I've already lost all my hair. You got a little
ways
to go.
It's gonna happen. No, not next week. The week after.
Right.
The 27th is Bridging Nations: The Business of Cross-Border Manufacturing with Andrew Cummings. So it's a very exciting episode. We've been bringing some new type of guests on, which is exciting.
Yeah, and it really is an interesting one because it really talks about, doing business across borders. of countries, specifically U.S. and Canada, and what it's like to get across the borders and work across the borders. And it couldn't be more timely. So really excited. And he'll finish up this year's podcasts. Our next podcast will start in January for our next season, we'll say. So yeah, that'll be nice to have Andrew with us.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Well, it was a great podcast with Rob. We look forward to getting him back again. I really enjoyed that. Stephanie, thank you for holding the fort while my computer decided to leave for whatever reason.
Yeah. Thank you for everyone who stuck around.
All right. Well, Steph, have a good evening. Thank you, Rob, again. We'll talk to everybody.
Bye.
In a couple of weeks. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Cutting Time CNC podcast, where precision meets progress. We hope you've gained valuable insights into CNC manufacturing and are inspired to optimize your processes for efficiency and innovation. For more resources and to connect with Al or Stephanie, visit us at cuttingtimecncpodcast.com. The link is in the show description. Remember, the journey doesn't end here. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in CNC manufacturing. Make sure you follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite player to get notified about new episodes of the Cutting Time CNC Industry Podcast.